Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. In the last podcast, I commented that I refuse to just relentlessly promote any sort of keto brand or keto product. That said, if there's a particular new keto product that I really like and think you should know about, I'll tell you about it. And if there's an especially good sale, I'll let you know about that as well. And if you like Perfect Keto bars, there is actually a really good sale going on right now. If you're not into Perfect Keto or keto bars or keto convenience items, just jump forward about 30 seconds. But for those of you who are interested in the Perfect Keto bars, they are having a buy two, get one free sale between now and Thursday, April 30th. So that's 33% off. And that is, I think, the deepest discount that they have had on product without buying a ton of it since Black Friday, probably. In addition to the buy two, get one free deal, if you purchase more than $80, they will give you their Snickerdoodle nut butter for free. Anyhow, I will include the link right at the very top of the description down below. If you want to get in on this deal, great. If you're not interested, no worries. On with the podcast. A couple of years ago, my wife and I were having a conversation. We've had conversations since, obviously, but this particular conversation was about how divided things had become in the world, especially the United States, and not just the partisan politics, but it seemed that everybody was willing to fight over whatever thing it was that they believed. It seemed that people had moved from having respectful opinions and being willing to agree to disagree with other people to really wanting to fight over everything. That somehow they felt their opinion was fact, whether that was related to music or food or their opinion on The Last Jedi. And I said at the time, maybe what the world needs is some sort of a plague or a tragedy, something that we can unite against and become sort of one, kind of put aside some of these other petty differences. I look back to 9/11 and how for a brief period we all seemed to get along. And I thought maybe some sort of a plague or tragedy would do that here in 2018, I guess is when I brought it up. So I guess this is sort of a be careful what you wish for, because here we are in 2020 dealing with this absolutely unprecedented situation. And rather than coming together, we're more divided. And I think you realize that I'm talking about Dalgona coffee. I brought up the topic of Dalgona during the last podcast, and I knew I would get a few comments from people on one side or the other of the argument. I didn't expect nearly the amount that I got, including some comments that accused me of being angry or upset, which I'm not. If you can look at my face right now, you can tell I'm not upset. It doesn't upset me at all if you enjoy Dalgona coffee and want to drink it to your heart's content, any more than it upsets me if you want to eat Brussels sprouts, which also aren't to my liking. So, if you like something, great. If you don't, that's fine. We don't need to fight over it. In fact, I wasn't trying to start any sort of a fight over it. It's just not my thing. I will say that if you do like a sort of whipped coffee or coffee whip, I think I've made a better one. And it goes fine on top of your coffee, it goes fine on top of a dessert, or really you can just eat it straight up with a spoon. It's pretty good. And I'll probably have a video on that next week, so stay tuned for that. I think the thing I'm looking most forward to when this whole COVID-19 thing is over is just not hearing about it anymore or reading about it just constantly. I thought I'd never say this, but I wouldn't mind seeing an article on the Kardashians in place of one of these COVID articles for a change. I did, however, see a recent study, and I'm going to kind of tie this back to keto a little bit. This came from the Journal of American Medical Association. They looked at 5,700 patients that had been submitted to hospitals in New York, and there was some pretty interesting data they collected from it. Now, I'm a total data geek. Back when I used to work for corporate America, one of the things that I did is I taught some very sophisticated statistical analytics classes. And I actually believe I was able to make them fun, if you can imagine that. But I geek out rather hard on large data sets where I can create predictive models. And predictive models are awesome. Whether that's the performance of a stock or a startup or customer behavior, like what's the likelihood that they will make a purchase, or predicting disease or susceptibility to a disease. So in this study of the Journal of American Medical Association, they discovered that 94% of the patients admitted to hospitals had more than one other disease besides COVID-19. And this is where it sort of starts potentially tying to keto. 53% of the patients suffered from hypertension. 42% were obese, and 32% had type 2 diabetes. Now I know, based on the comments that I get on all of my videos, that the vast majority of us who are doing keto once fell into one or more of those buckets. I'm consistently reading comments from people who have reversed their type 2 diabetes through keto, who have lost 30, 50, 100 or more pounds and gone from obese. I mean, I was obese. I lost 75 pounds. Hypertension, getting off of medications, getting off of blood pressure medications. These are a lot of great side effects to keto. So if by eliminating some of these diseases from our bodies through keto, we are creating an environment where a virus can't take a hold or at least affect us as much, that's a pretty compelling argument, I think, for keto. And I've seen so many other comments on my videos where people have talked about since going keto, they haven't had a cold, they haven't had the flu, they haven't had allergies, their asthma has gotten better. It goes back to something that I truly, truly believe about keto, which is, yeah, it's great for weight loss, but the holistic benefits that you achieve for your health are amazing. So my hope is that we can continue to draw data like this. And maybe at some point the medical community wakes up to the fact that keto is pretty good medicine. Now normally this is where I would probably insert a commercial into the podcast, but since I already talked about perfect keto, we're not going to do that. But what I am going to do is continue on the subject of keto being good medicine. Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine." And I've become a very big believer in that. I mean, it's been over 90 days, I think close to 100 days, since I have taken any acid reflux medication, just by drinking an apple cider vinegar tonic. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link to that up here. And yet, people still want a pill for everything. The other night as a family, somehow, for some reason, my son decided to turn on the Game Show Network, and we were watching Family Feud. And during the commercial breaks, I kid you not, 2 out of 3 commercials were for medicines. And in each one of these commercials, about 50% of the time is spent covering the side effects. One of the drugs that was advertised was as a treatment for type 2 diabetes. Now, I'm not going to say the name of this particular drug just because I don't want to get sued or anything like that, even though all I'm going to do is mention things that are already on their website. And there was a pretty significant list of side effects. Allow me to read them. Dehydration, vaginal yeast infections, yeast infection of the penis. I hope you're not eating right now. Urinary tract infections, dizziness, lightheadedness, weakness, nausea, upper respiratory tract infection, high cholesterol, joint pain, kidney damage, gangrene, including gangrene of the perineum. And in the commercial, what caught my attention, I think I wasn't fully paying attention, I might have been looking at my phone, and I hear gangrene of the perineum. And then I believe they actually described where it is. So, between the genitals and anus. Again, I hope you're not eating. I heard that and I thought, who would take this? Gangrene down there by your special purpose. That's horrible. In fact, I would say that tain't right. See what I did there? And I started imagining what conversation occurs at a doctor's office. Your lab results are in, and I'm afraid they're not good. Your A1C is extremely high, indicating that you have type 2 diabetes. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you're probably going to go blind, and we're going to have to amputate one or more of your extremities. Whew, that's bad. Is there anything I can do about it? Well, you could modify your diet, or you could take a pill. I'll take the pill. Oh, hang on for a second. It's important that you be aware of the side effects, one of which is gangrene of the perineum. What does that mean? It means that the flesh down by your junk could die off and need to be surgically removed, including your penis. And what was the other option? Give up Pepsi and donuts. I'll take the pill. So I'll continue to say it. Keto is good medicine, and in my opinion, far better than a pill. But as always, I'd love to read about your experiences. Tell me your success on keto, the medicines that you've gotten off of, the ailments you've gotten rid of, etc. Reading that just cheers me up tremendously, and I think we're all at a point where a little cheering up is a good thing. I'm going to finish this podcast the same way I've done the last couple, which is taking sort of an optimistic or positive look at the whole COVID situation that we're living through right now. In addition to some comments that I've received here on YouTube, I've actually been direct messaged by a couple of people on Facebook or Instagram, and they have accused me of either not taking this COVID-19 thing seriously enough or sugarcoating it, and that they're angry and they want to be angry and I should be angry too. But as I've said in those other videos, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to poison my system. I'm not going to let myself be emotionally compromised with anger or fear or depression, because that impacts the rest of your day. That impacts the people around you. And at a time like this, I think that's really the last thing we need. I prefer to be positive. I think what you send out is what you get back. I guess a metaphor for it would be like fishing. Now, I'm not a fisherman, but I do know a little bit about it. There's certain types of bait, certain types of lures that you're going to use to attract certain types of fish. And I believe that it's the same way with behavior. You can attract certain things to you by the bait or the lure that you use. You send out positivity, you send out appreciation, you send out gratitude, and you tend to receive that back. And one of the positives that I see coming out of this COVID situation is a greater appreciation for some of the people and some of the professions that perhaps were sort of invisible to us. I'm not going to say that it's like a caste system or something and these are the untouchables, but there are certain people that we just don't really notice so much until they're not there anymore. I think one of the big ones we're noticing now is our barber or stylist. I think this is the longest I've gone without a haircut in 20 years, maybe. We'll see what happens with all of this. If at some point I just decide I'm going to go with, some longer hair, or if I need to rely on a family member to give me a haircut. So if you see me looking like the owner of the Raiders NFL team, that probably means I let a family member cut my hair. Another big one, I think, is the garbage man. I don't know if that's the politically correct term anymore, whether there's something other term, waste disposal specialist, something like that. I mean, I can go without a haircut for a while. If I miss a haircut by a week or two, I'm going to live. Clearly, I'm living right now. If the garbage man didn't come for a couple of weeks, we start having problems. So I appreciate the garbage man and recycling man. I think an appreciation for anybody that does any sort of cleaning, whether that's pushing a broom or pushing a mop or holding a squirt bottle of disinfectant, wherever that is, a restaurant, grocery store, department store, airport, public restroom, whatever. I think for them, receiving a little bit of gratitude, having someone acknowledge them and say thank you, I think that's a pretty big deal. It's knowing that maybe I made somebody's day better. And by paying it forward, maybe we get something that's perpetual and we start being a little bit nicer to one another. Maybe instead of being sort of grumpy and testy with one another when we're out in public, at the grocery store or wherever, we can get back to remembering that we're all human and we're all in this together. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I would like to know, because I'm sure there are tons of people or professions that all of you appreciate and were thinking of as I was talking, put that down in the comments. Who do you appreciate? Either you've shown it or you recognize now there's a person or a profession that I definitely need to say thank you to once the world starts to get back to normal. That's it for this podcast. Thanks for watching or listening.